All right, today I'm excited to welcome Cam F. Awesome to the show. Cam, thanks for joining me. How's it going today?
Going pretty good, man. Having a good day. I made avocado toast, but the avocados weren't ready. I knew I was rushing it, but I ate it
Well,
anyway.
I mean, it's got to be close enough. I mean, if you're cutting them open, if you can almost spread it, you should be
I
all
just
right.
it would be so much better tomorrow, but I couldn't wait.
Anyway, Cam, on the show, we like to talk about people's journeys to get to where they're at, the kind of career path or the life situations they've gone through. But to get there, I like to start out where you're at now. So if you could take a second, introduce yourself, let people know who you are, why we're talking to you today, and then we'll circle back and see how you got there.
So my name is Cam F. Awesome. I'm currently a keynote speaker and I a hobbyist. I do stand-up comedy and I'm teaching myself how to juggle. That has nothing to do with the first two things, but I'm 36 with no kids. You kind of try to figure out things to do with your time. I used to box. It allowed me to travel around the world. I was captain of Team USA for about 10 years, and
Oh, wow.
I latched my identity to that for a while. And then that goes away, and then you're like, who am I? And yeah.
Nice, nice. So keynote speaker, motivational speaker, and tinkerer of all new hobbies that can fill up some time.
Yeah.
That'd be your new tagline there. Cam, so you mentioned you were a boxer. You mentioned you were captain of Team USA for a while. Let's go back even further than that. When you were a kid, how was growing up? What did you want to do when you were a kid, or did you have any aspirations, or just nothing at
Yeah.
all?
No, I when I was a kid, I wanted to be I wanted to have my own TV show. Do you remember all that?
Yeah.
Okay, I wanted to be on all that. And then I saw Keenan and Kel had their spin-off show. And I wanted my the whole idea was like I was gonna go on all that and then do really well there and get my own TV show. But I was like 8 and I didn't know how those things happened. And it just
You didn't have an
never
agent
happened.
yet?
No, I didn't have an agent. So this was like the time where everyone was getting their own reality TV shows.
Mm, okay.
And I was dealing with with bullying in school. So I joined the boxing gym with the thoughts if I look like a boxer, people would leave me alone.
I mean, that's
And,
fair enough. I mean,
and I wanted to
I
learn how
think
to
there would be
fight.
a better strategy would have been you just learned how to kick somebody's ass.
Yeah, oh, but I'm very non-confrontational.
All right. Well, I
That
mean,
so I still to this day I don't like confrontation. I can handle confrontation, but I don't like it. So I joined the boxing gym and I was motivated by fear because I thought the harder I work out, the quicker I'll look like a boxer and
okay.
the safer I'll be. And then I outworked all the other boxers and I realized natural talent could only take you so far.
Were you why were you getting bullied? Were you skinny or too fat or dumb, or like what were they bullying you for?
So I call it bullying. I think it started, I was in fourth grade and I had a kid slam my head into a brick wall. I was sent to the hospital with a concussion. And then after that, the school would release me 10 minutes early so I could get home before he got to me because I have to walk by his house to get home.
Ah, oh, so
And
oh, awesome.
yeah. And now that, as an adult, I look back, I'm like, oh, that's not how you handle that. But
Right.
since then, I was always afraid of confrontation. And I think even when guys give each other shit, I couldn't take that. And I
Okay.
saw that as an attack. And I was like very sensitive. And I didn't know what anxiety was because there weren't those, I wasn't aware of terms like that.
Right.
Uh, but I realized that's what I was dealing with.
Well,
Uh,
it was a pretty traumatic. I mean, that's a pretty traumatic situation as a kid, and then to feel targeted like that and looking over your shoulder, and oh, the school's letting me out 10 minutes early, but what does that mean for the rest of the day? Or there's places out of the way that things happen. Man, that's a pretty stressful thing for a kid, and I can see that causing a lot of anxiety.
Yeah. Yeah, I never went to the bathroom in school. Like, because you never knew what would happen in the bathroom. Someone might walk in, you might get beat up. And that fear is what made me train so hard before a fight, because I still to this day I don't like confrontation. But fighting something I felt like I had to do because like I wasn't gonna go to college and this was like my only route in life. And before a fight, I would get so prepared that there was nothing I could do in my power at to win. Like I showed up so prepared because of that fear.
Right.
Uh yeah.
What so you joined the boxing gym and you started just working your ass off out of fear and anxiety basically. Uh where does that lead? Like how do you go from a kid that was trying to look like a boxer to the captain of the national boxing team?
Uh I was lucky enough to have my parents move my senior year of high school.
Okay.
And I moved from New York to Florida. So two things happened about that. When I moved, I realized I could be whoever I wanted in Florida. No one knew. So I pretended to be like a combination of a bunch of cool people I thought was cool. And when I showed up to high school that first day, I just pretended to be that person because no one would know. And at first, I felt like a fraud,
Right.
but then people would expect me to be that guy. So I kind of fell in that role. The second thing that happened was my boxing gym was 6 miles away from my high school.
Okay.
So it was a 3 hour walk every day. It was the only way for me to get to the gym. And during those walks, I would just make up stories in my head about how great I was. And I was knocking everyone out. And all the girls wanted to date me. I had all the cars, all the money, all the jewelry. And it was just basically, and I didn't understand what I was doing then, but those are basically affirmations.
Right.
I just basically told myself I was the shit for 3 hours before going to the gym and working out really hard. Because if you think I just walked 3 hours to half-ass it at the gym, you're out your
Right.
mind.
Right. That's a long hike to go in and call it quits early.
Yeah. So for 15 hours a week, I was just patting myself on the back. And that instilled this confidence in me. And it was just like this, it wasn't even arrogance. It was just like I knew I was going to win. I didn't walk 6 miles to lose.
Right.
So I'm not even going to pretend. So I walk. I don't look bothered before a fight because I'm not. I knew I did everything in my power to win. So I had this aura about me, which comes off as douchey.
Yeah, I mean, I
As,
get
as an
exactly what you're
18-year
saying.
old,
There's something about knowing you couldn't have prepared any harder. And if the dude standing across from you for some reason is bigger, stronger, they happen to have more in them than you, then it is what it is. Otherwise, there's just no reason to worry because I did everything I possibly could. It starts to look cocky, but it's that kind of, you have to have that confidence in yourself.
yeah. And what would it look like to enter the ring thinking, oh no, maybe I might win? And I believe life boxing's the greatest metaphor for life because we're all dealing with our own battles. Whether they be me afraid to walk home from the school or whatever it may be, or asking for that promotion. If you do it half-assed, you're not even sure you want it.
Right. Right. If you can't convince yourself that it's worth doing everything you can to get it, how are you going to convince anybody else?
Yeah.
Whether that's selling yourself or beating the shit out of somebody.
Yeah, it's
Either way.
like I I had to enter the ring and I had to convince myself I was going to win. Else there was no other reason to get in the ring. Uh, but that 15 hours walking to the gym every day, like, brought this confidence to me. And within a year of boxing, I was the number one boxer in the country. Like, I
Nice.
lost my first national championships. I made it in 2007, made it third place. Following year, I won and became captain of Team USA.
What size were you, or what weight were you fighting?
So I was fighting super heavyweight, anything above 201 pounds. I was about 203 pounds at the time.
Oh,
My
oh,
thought process. So remember
you're
when I said I
quicker.
can, that's all I, bro, that's all I had. Uh, I was fighting guys who were like 260. Like, if he hits me, he'll kill me. But my strategy in boxing, and the first time I sparred, I was so afraid that I just ran from my opponent the entire time. It wasn't even memorable. But then he eventually got tired, and then I got less afraid. And I realized, oh, if I'm in better shape, I'm going to win. But
Yeah.
guys my size, they don't get tired quickly. The big guys get tired quickly.
Mm-hmm.
So if I
Yeah.
hit you, I get a point. If you hit me, you get a point. If I just hit you a few times and then you get tired, I win.
Right.
So I learned to manipulate the scoring system. And because I was in better shape than those big guys who were trying to knock everyone out, I was still avoiding confrontation. It's what I bring to the party, bro.
I was a Friday Night Fights kid in the 80s and 90s. I mean, that was the heyday of boxing, man. Like, watching those fights every week. I know exactly what you're talking about. That small guy that's in there just running circles around him.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
it works. It works, and it's something where you can work harder at being in better shape. Like you can out condition. I mean, it's the story that you see across the sports movies all the time. Like, we're gonna outrun them. There's nobody is going to outrun us. We might lose, but we're not going to be tired.
Yeah. That was that. I realized that's all because after I had my first loss, I thought it was like the end of my career. And
Mm,
all it meant is I didn't get the bigger trophy.
right.
And my coach explained it to me in that way. So to me, I realized, like, oh, a loss is just an opportunity to gain experience.
Right.
If you have 100 boxing matches and we're the same age and same weight, if you have 100 boxing matches and I have three, and we were to fight, who would win?
I mean, I'm guessing you might.
If we're the same age and weight, like,
Oh,
if you have 100 boxing matches,
oh, I got way more experience, so hopefully I would win.
and if you were a betting person, you'd probably bet that. You don't even need to know your record. You could be 20 wins and 80 losses,
Right. Right.
but you would probably beat a guy with three fights.
Hopefully.
So my whole plan with boxing was, I'm just going to get to 100 fights. I'll fight everyone. I don't care about my record. So I never cared about my record because it doesn't matter. It's how good you are that matters.
Right. Right.
And uh, I fought all the top guys always. And after I got to 100 fights, which is more like, if you have 50 fights in boxing, that's a lot. Once I got to 100, I had more than everyone else.
Right.
I was winning off of sheer experience. There are guys who were so talented, but they would have to fight me within their first 2 years of boxing. They'll never beat me within the first 2 years. And then once I beat them, I've beat them mentally. So I was
Right.
able to hold my spot at number one for a very long time.
How was fighting in the Olympics? Well, how was that experience? There's so few people that get to perform athletically for their country at that level. How was it? And you got to do it a few times.
Actually, so I qualified for the 2008 Olympic trials. I lost, and that's when I first started boxing. I won the 2012 Olympic trials, but I was removed off the team for not sending in my drug testing paperwork.
How did that go?
I left the country to fight in a tournament that you get drug tested for, but I forgot to tell the drug testing agency I was leaving, so they showed up to my house to give me a random drug test. Bro. And this is how oblivious I was to the situation. Because I travel so much for boxing, I'm never home. They sent a letter to my house saying I was suspended. And I didn't go home for 4 months because I'm never home. And I show up to nationals and they're like, "Why are you here?" I'm like, "Because I'm fighting." And they're like, "You're
Oh,
suspended." Yeah, that's how I found out.
oh, what? I mean, that's got to put a hurting on you.
Oh, yeah, that all I had was boxing in my life. Like I put all my eggs in that basket. And
What do you do at that point?
at first I felt really bad for myself and I cried a lot and I drank a lot. And then I realized I had bills and no one cared about my problems.
Yep.
Like I it I'm not gonna lie, in the beginning it feels good when people are like, "Oh, don't you feel bad?" And like you get pity. But like eventually, like after 24 hours, pity
How
party's over.
long? How long before you were like, yeah, I fucked up? Or I mean, were you like, they fucked up like immediately? I'd be like, what did they do?
Oh, so immediately when I got the news, I knew I checked the date and I saw where I was during that time.
Mm,
And I was like, oh, I was fighting in the tournament that the same drug testing agency runs. So I thought I would be covered there. But it was after Lance Armstrong went on Oprah.
mm,
And
okay.
then the drug testing agency cracked down on a bunch of athletes. After returning to boxing, I became the athlete rep for USADA to speak on behalf of the athletes because I'm like, we travel this much for work. Like, I don't live a normal life. I'm in this airport, that airport. I can't tell you where I'm going to be. Put an ankle monitor on me.
Right.
It's not that I'm hiding. It's hard for athletes who travel full time to let you know where they're going to be on the hour every hour.
Because they're testing you randomly throughout training as well as prior to a competition.
When you're on the team, you're 24 hours, 7 days a week, 365, they can show up. And they do. And I
I mean,
welcome them.
that was kind of insane. Like, you would think. I mean, I guess if it's random, completely random, there's no way around it. I guess, but I mean, really,
And I do understand it's for the safety of the athletes, but there's got to be a better way. Track my phone. Like, and but
well, like you
privacy
said,
reasons, they can't.
you were at a tournament. With the same, with like even with the same company, were you being tested for the tournament you were at?
Yeah.
So you had a test on the same, relatively the same time as the one that you
Yeah.
missed, but because it wasn't okay,
And they do that for the safety of the athletes, but we have to have some type of discretion because we're still,
right. I
I'm
mean,
not like I
you
was,
peed in a cup, on a day or around the day that you were supposed to, and it came back negative. So I don't know, just because you weren't at the place they sent the guy to.
yeah. And I do understand it's my responsibility.
Yeah, I mean,
I had to eat that year. But then I realized like I was no longer the athlete. I would introduce myself as captain of the USA team. It was like my identity. And
right.
then I lost that immediately. And all the special treatment I got with it was gone. Like I know boo-hoo me, but like I had to pay for my gym memberships and supplements
Right.
and I had to pay my own rent. And I wasn't a real adult.
You weren't a compensated athlete.
No, I was no, but I wasn't a compensated athlete, but they at least like paid for my housing.
Well, no, that's what
Like,
I'm saying. But that
like
wasn't even in the cards anymore. There was no help whatsoever. I mean, I get, so it's that. I mean, I've followed sports so long, and with the college and the pro and the paid and the not and all of that shit. I'm like, man, you're dedicating your life to this. You need to get some sort of payback. I mean, they got to take care of you because you don't have an opportunity to earn money either.
I love that these college athletes are getting these NIL deals. But on Team USA, I made $1,000 a month.
Right.
And the
To
reason, like,
dedicate your
why,
life to it.
and if you missed camp or competition because you had a job, you'd lose your money for the month. And so you would try to personal train, but then you leave for 6 weeks for a competition and a competition in a camp. You come back, you have to start over finding clients.
Right. Right.
It
Yeah,
it's these athletes struggle, man.
it's a wonder that so many do it, and it really shows the dedication to the sport and to country or whatever they're doing it
I can
for.
tell you why, man. That national anthem,
Yeah.
like when I beat you up and then you just have to stand there and listen to my song, bro. I'll tell you
I
this:
like it.
my entrance music was the national anthem. Like everyone chooses their song, and the reason mine was because everyone, like, think about it. If we're fighting each other, you have your music, whatever it is, you're hyped. You get to the ring, the crowd has been built for this, waiting for this moment the whole night. And then the national anthem comes on. Everyone has to stand up, take off their hats, shut up, and pay attention to me. And I walk slow enough for you to listen to the entire song. It ruins the entire atmosphere of the room.
I
And
love it.
that's
You're in
that's
their head before you even got in the ring.
oh yeah. And I would do that in the United States. That's who I was.
I mean,
To America.
it's not. Yeah, I mean, it's just like you said. It just changes all that dynamic because you come in on if you have somebody in a whole crowd that's energized and you come in on top of it and amp it up even more. I mean, yeah, you get yours, but they get it too. I mean, you just zapped everything out of them, and inside you're like,
yeah. And everyone knows what I'm doing. And you can't argue. You can't not stand up.
right,
Well,
right.
that's a whole
I mean,
nother conversation.
yeah.
But for the
So,
most part,
so you
it was
lost
just to
your
be funny.
right. So you lost your identity overnight, and you ended up getting back to boxing after a year. Did that make you a better fighter?
Yeah, because I had a new hunger. I'd gotten comfortable. I was winning so much that because I won nationals every year and I was so ahead on the ranking points, I could probably take 2 years off and still be number one,
Right.
which I technically did, but they removed all my ranking points during that time. But we know what's up. Uh, but when I came back, I lost a bet during the suspension and had to become vegan for 28 days. And I started to see my abs again. So I was like, okay, I'm going to do this a little bit longer. And it allowed me to and that the bet I lost, I had to be sober as well. So I couldn't drink for the 28 days. And it got me in such good shape that I decided I was just going to do it a little bit longer.
Nice.
And I was more disciplined when I came back and I was hungrier. And
That's because you
this
went
time
vegan.
yeah, yeah, I was satiated. That's funny.
I couldn't help myself.
I appreciate it.
But you had a new hunger coming back.
Yeah.
And focus really.
Yeah, and this time I realized I wasn't coming back as an athlete. I was coming back as an entertainer.
Okay.
Because the whole goal is like I want to be on a TV show. I want to have that. And the reason why I was boxing was I thought if I got good enough at boxing, I would get my own TV show.
Right.
Because back then, everyone was getting their own reality shows. It was realistic back then. It was before life what it is now with like influencers.
Right.
So I realized like I want to be a performer. So I started doing stand-up comedy and I would do school assemblies and I would talk about bullying and confidence. And I would do my stand-up comedy jokes because students like that as well. And I kind of built a lane for myself as a performer. So as I returned to boxing, I used all the athlete privilege that I would get. So I would call up news stations like, hey, I'm coming to your city to fight. I would also like to speak at the schools. and then the news channels will come down and cover that as well. And I created a lane for myself, not just as a athlete. So I also changed my last name to Awesome legally, and I went all in uh, to be more than just an athlete, to be an entertainer and a performer.
Are you still boxing?
Oh no, no. I returned to boxing. I won nationals in 2013, 14, 15, and 2016 I won the Olympic trials. There's a documentary on Netflix that covers that story of my return. It's called Counterpunch.
Oh, nice, nice.
I won the Olympic trials in 2016, but I lost an international competition and didn't get to go to Rio. Uh, but that second time in 2016, that's on me. I lost the close fight.
So, this is a point. Like, how old are you when you lose that fight?
28, 27.
Okay, and so then that's another 4-year cycle to make another Olympics. Was that a decision that you had to make, or was that already made up in your mind? Like this was it, or how does that go?
So 2016, like after I realized I wasn't going, I made a post on Twitter, like because I knew I was like, this is going to be a moment. Like I want to look back on and realize I made the right decision.
Okay.
I said I lost my fight today. My Olympic run is over. Time to reinvent myself and see what's next for me. It may not be boxing. I knew 100% what I wanted to do is like I wanted to be a speaker, and I lost the fight in Argentina. I flew back to Kansas City, and 3 days later, I flew to Phoenix. I went to the National Speakers Association, and I went all in on speaking.
Awesome.
And problem I ran into, again, I can't call up the news stations and get whatever I wanted. And also, I didn't have health insurance. If you're the number one boxer in the country, you get health insurance because America's the Hunger Games. Right. So I realized, like, okay, I have to win nationals again in 2016. So I do. And I do it just so I can promote myself as a number one boxer in the country as I'm trying to build my speaking business. And then I won nationals again in 2017. And then in 2018, I lose a fight because I was living in I started living in my van. I lived out of a Dodge Sprinter.
Nice.
For about 3 years, travel around the country speaking at schools. And I was also training for nationals at Planet Fitness, like half-ass out of the van. And I lose a fight, and I'm like, oh, I can't half-ass this. So I was like, because I'm working on speaking so much, like I'm more passionate about that. So I decided to stop boxing. And I'm at these schools, and the question that every kid asks is, why aren't you doing the 2020 Olympics?
Because I'm here talking to you, you little shit.
I felt like a fraud because I'm like talking about going out and doing things, but I'm just talking about it. And I'm healthy. There's no reason I can't. So I sign up to be on Team USA again, but because I have a speaking business, they won't let me. Like they say I have to live in the Olympic Training Center in Colorado Springs, and I can't travel around in my van building my business. So my dad's from Trinidad and Tobago. So I flew to my dad's home country. I got dual citizenship, fought for their Olympic trials, and I won their Olympic trials.
Nice.
But because the pandemic, they didn't send a team.
Oh, dude.
So again,
you're just like taking it hard all the way. I think you the sign is on the wall. The boxing's done. Just motivate the shit out of people, and you're gonna be great.
Yeah. So yeah, I went to 4 Olympic trials. I won 3 of them, but I never got to go to the Olympics.
Dude, I mean, you got to the top. You got to the top of what you could get to. What they let you.
Yeah, and the thing is, I did it all to perform. So really, technically, I got what I wanted out of it. And I got to also travel to over 30 countries. I made great friends. And I also didn't have to work really. I was broke for 12 years, but I traveled the world like a
Right.
broke college kid. And I lived in dorms with other Olympic athletes. And I ended up winning 12 national championships and more boxing matches than anybody else in the sport. So I don't really consider what I don't really consider a failure. What I realize is if I would have, because I set my goals to go to the Olympics, that was my whole point. But if my goal was to like win the state championship and I got it, like, yes, I reached my goal, but did I accomplish anything?
Right.
I place the value of the goal on how unattainable it is.
Right.
Because if you make an unattainable goal and you try to get it, you're going to crush a whole bunch of other goals that would be significant if it was your actual goal. So what that ever taught me is like set your goals as big as humanly possible. And if you do fail, who cares? It wasn't really that attainable of a goal anyway. So
Right.
if your goal was to make, let's say for number of reasons, let's say 100K a year, right? If that was your goal, well, screw that goal. Let your goal be $1 million a year. And then you will take the goals, you will take the steps to make $1 million a year. When you fall short at 400 and you're making 400,000 a year, that's 4 times your original goal.
Right. Right.
Failing.
I
Because
mean,
you're
you did pretty good setting the goal, getting your own TV show, and what you got out of that journey. I think it was well worth the failure. And I mean, in a sense, you get to do your own show anytime you speak or perform or come on a podcast or do any sort of interview. So, dude, I mean, knocked it out of the park. We kind of coming up on time. If you want to take some time, let people know where they can find you if they want to hear more. I know you mentioned the Netflix documentary. Any websites or anything that you want people to go check you out, and plug your stuff, and we'll wrap it up.
Yeah. Well, thanks for having me, man. This is cool. This is a cool conversation. I am camfawesome.com. You can find me there. I'm a keynote speaker. I speak on mindset, resilience, and the power of a positive internal dialogue. I still always speak at high schools and middle schools because that will always be my passion. My thought process is if I can pivot a 14-year-old 1 degree, by the time they're 30, their entire life has changed.
Yep.
So,
yep.
And it's you pivot a 30-year-old 1 degree, it's just a little different. So I find I can make the greatest impact with my words at schools. So I speak at high schools and middle schools, and reach out to me. I'm an open book.
Yeah. Awesome, man. Awesome. Cam F. Awesome at that. Man, I really appreciate you coming in. I enjoyed the chat. Also, it was a lot of fun, and hopefully I get to catch up with you soon.
Yeah, man. Thanks for having me. Have a good day.